Greetings, this is Warrior King, and the time has come for the lions and the lioness to tell their own story. This is the lion's voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use I as an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Ras Tafari, the lion's voice.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lion's voice. Now put it, I jolly for say that.
Greetings, this is Ras Sekou. The time has come for the lions to tell their own story. See? This is the lion's voice. Keep it locked, right, sir? Ras Sekou said that. Are you satisfied? Wipe those tears from your eyes. I'm all alone, still you thought I was telling a lie. This is the lion's voice. Keep it locked, right, sir?
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dose. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the lion's voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Ras Tafari. Lion of it tried with lioness like I do. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them. Roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Ras Tafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Ras Tafari.
Empress Manel, and a young scientist. Your role universally unfold, be told. Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the lion's voice, Ras Tafari.
Yo, blazing fire, yeah man, this is Ras Indio out of Belize, and the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, right? Yeah man, we blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Ras Indio said that, blazing fire, lion boy.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes, wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Ras Tafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Ras Tafari.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the lion voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.
Yeah, Ras Tafari, Emperor Haile Selassie the first. Tell the people about Empress Mene. Well, even if the
stars they fall, and the moon turn into blood. But to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start ball, cause they see the city streets them flood. But when the hurricane blow down their wall, I'll be by your side and me nah budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, that light was a lifeline. It seems like the world is upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound. So even when the stars they fall, and the moon turn into blood, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start mal, when they see their city streets them flood, when the hurricane blow down our wall, I'll be by your side and me not budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your light was a lifeline. I think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. They say hurt people. Maybe that's why Babylon them so evil. Maybe Babylon abused as a child. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Reading Ras on the Front Line. Welcome once again to our exclusive broadcast with the legendary Sekou Tafari, our elder. We're going to bring him forward shortly. We have a very exciting lineup, esteemed panel of Pan-African women authors today. Some of them you know, some you may be meeting for the first time. However, you know that this show has evolved into one of our most stimulating spaces for Pan-African reasoning. Our elder, Ras Sekou, is a treasure trove of information, and especially what's happening now geopolitically. It's more relevant than ever that we go into the books that we read and that we equip ourselves mentally for what is to come. The war in the Middle East rages on. Price of gas has gone over $100 a barrel, and it's slated to continue to escalate. America is sending in ground troops. We have seen this movie at least 3 or 4 times in the last 20 years. So we know where this is going, and the key for us all is the preparation. You know, we all must prepare. I saw where the president of Russia is saying that this is going to be worse than COVID when the full scale of the energy crisis hits.
In Europe, they're already rationing fuel in some places. Australia is slated to run out of fuel, I think, this week here. It's going to be very interesting, very fascinating what happens. Massive repercussions. 40% of the, I think, either 30 or 40% of the world chemical fertilizers are coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. That has been stopped. So global agriculture, they're anticipating a collapse there as well. Urea, helium, which they use to make superconductor chips for all of this technology. All of that has been stalled right now. So we are on pace for the global collapse. And some people may feel a little bit of dread or panic. We as Rastafari people in particular should not be part of those people. We knew this was coming. We sang about it. We chanted about it. We told people about it. We were called conspiracy theorists. We were called crazy because we said the day would come when Babylon fall, the day would come when Babylon locked down the place. We were saying these things for decades. Now it is here. So we should not be dismayed. We know what's happening. They're destroying the old system. The Bretton Woods architecture that grew up after World War II is being destroyed and dismantled systematically. This is the system His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I helped to create as an intermediate step onto a better world. However, the nations have completely rejected, or at least the colonial nations have completely rejected this international architecture, and instead have chosen to plunge the world into a new arms race, a new Armageddon war. And the innocent, of course, are the ones who suffer, or those who are not prepared. So we're going to touch on a little bit of those topics today in the context of the Pan-African Revolution, because I also say that this is not a doom and gloom story. This is, I think, a story of Africans' redemption, because I think we underestimate how much Africa's development has been suppressed. And that when you remove those tools of suppression, I think we're going to be quite surprised how Africa blossoms. The analogy I use is COVID. When we saw during COVID-19, all the prognosticators were saying that Africa would be a desolate landscape, hellscape of dead bodies, and the lack of health infrastructure was going to decimate the African population. And what did we see? We saw the exact opposite. The lack of colonial health infrastructure actually helped Africa have better outcomes, because people were not taking the vaccine. People were doing their natural remedies. People were getting vitamin D, sunshine, which we found out was one of the best things that you could have done during that time. And so Africa came out probably the best out of all the continents during this global health crisis, that we call the COVID-19. And I think the same thing is going to happen with this international crisis. We have to big up Dan Kote of Nigeria, who has opened his refinery to other African nations who are now sourcing. But his foresight of building a refinery and allowing Africans to refine oil in Africa is now proving to be, I think a lot of us always knew, a necessary step in terms of Africa standing on its own. Let's pray that can be spread as a benefit to Western Africa. And we're going to keep an eye on the situation. April is coming up. We're wrapping up our Women's History Month programming, so we're going to have a lot of content on the global situation, the preparation, repatriation. A lot of people are now accelerating their repatriation plans to Exodus. So we're going to definitely be touching those topics. Even today, one of our guests has been traveling extensively through the continent. We've had her on here before, and we're going to talk to her about her vision, what she sees as someone who has lived on the continent in several countries, someone who has lived here. So we're gonna have a nice reasoning today. Big up everybody watching live. Big up to the hundreds of people who will watch on the replay. Lion Voice Network is here. We are broadcasting live. And as I said to someone the other day, is that this is our time. This is the time that we've been waiting for. We're going to see who's real, who was just talking, where are all the battlefield angels. We're going to see who is a battlefield angel and who was just a bag of mouth. All of that's going to be happening in the next months, years. And remember, we said it here. Go back and watch our episode upon the election of Donald Trump. We got receipts over here, as the young people would say. If you watch that episode, first thing I said is that we're going to war with Iran. I didn't hesitate. Go back and watch the episode. We have the receipts, family. So we knew this was coming, and we are, quietly preparing as a immunity. Big up all of the Ras Tafari family globally who has been working together, putting aside the petty differences, because we understand clearly that divide and rule is really the only plan that they have. They don't have any plan B, plan C, plan D. The only plan they have is divide and rule. So once we're not divided, we can disagree, we can not like each other, but once we stay united around the common cause, which is economic development, African liberation, African redemption, we're fine. We win the victory. As soon as we divide, we will fall victim. They'll pick us off one by one. So unity is the accepted goal. And this episode today is about our unity. And we have, as I say, a power pack conference. I slip. It's not a conference. It should be a conference, but it's not a conference. But we have a power pack panel today. And I want to just big up everyone who is here again watching live. We have a powerful event coming up April 3rd. We will be featuring an exclusive interview with the reggae dancehall artist out of Trinidad, Jalifa, with the lioness voice. You see her in the intro. Exclusive. You don't see a lot of in-depth interviews with these young artists. We are bringing that, and we're going to be talking about the musical role of the Rastafari woman. In this time, music has guided so many people in this Rastafari chad. So we're going to talk to one of our creatives who is on the front line, who is picking up a lot of steam. As what does she feel her responsibility? Is it just fiery music? Do we need some love songs? Are we trying to build some family units with our music? What happened to the love songs? You know what I mean? All of these things, we'll be talking about them April 3rd for Empress Menen's Earth Strong. And that's going to be in the middle of the day, pre-sabbatical. And then in the evening, we have our 3rd annual Empress Menen Day panel. So stay tuned for that Empress Menen Day panel. It's going to be a powerful panel. We're going to drop the lineup on Monday. So stay tuned for the panel drop on Monday. Today, we are doing double. We're doing 2 episodes today. We're going to end this episode at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then at 6 p.m., we will return with a special episode featuring Empress Jalela out of the Bubble Shanty Order in Trinidad, talking about building the future, the Rastafari homeschool movement. Powerful educator, homeschools our children. We're going to talk about what it would take to build a state-of-the-art, first-class Rastafari school environment, school institution, and also the benefits of homeschooling. So stay tuned for this. Get your ITAL snacks. We're going hard, family, as we seal Women's History Month. We are uh, putting in the extra time because there are so many powerful sisters, so little time. We're not going to stop interviewing sisters after this month is over, but we want to get as many in as we can. And so we are putting in the work. So big up everyone who is watching live. Remember the vision of the channel. We're not just here for edutainment, we're here for economic development. So we're going to ask everyone purchase the books when we do the Reading Ras on the Frontline series once a month. We ask people to just go into their pocket to put this in their budget, their monthly budget. As you build your home, Trueberry, you can see behind me how many books that we have, multiple levels of books. Because I am the Reading Ras, and I don't want to be alone, family. I want to have a whole army of Reading Rases. You can see the shirt. We have the symbol, a Ras reading a book. And we have this merch available. The Reading Ras merch is available on the chasmatchkwasi.com. You can order your t-shirts, etc. But we want to make reading physical books a thing. We want to make it to be, part of the liberty that, you call yourself Rastafari, you call yourself Pan-African, you read books. One of the earliest lessons that most of us know who are book people is you never lend people your books. I've lost so many books lending people books. So everybody needs their own copy, and we'll find out from this panel of readers how they feel about lending out books, because this is a touchy subject, and it might be a little controversial because we're supposed to give and be nice. But I don't lend people books. If you want to read it, you come to my house and you can read it at my house. But I'm not lending. I've lost some gems. But you don't have to lose a book because you can buy it from Frontline Books directly today. We're going to bring up the website. You know how we do it. Take out your card and make sure you purchase the book. So I'm not going to keep any longer. I'm going to bring forward our co-host, the legendary, and I don't know if the item know how blessed we are to have an elder like this as our co-host. This brethren is legendary. I told you as a young university student I would be reading books, and I keep seeing this Frontline books in the opening section of the book until I would grow up to be able to call this elder a brethren and reason with this elder and interact. And sometimes when you meet your hero or you meet the people you look up to, you're disappointed. But I didn't have that experience. I was actually overly impressed because the work itself doesn't do justice to the mind behind this elder. So give a warm welcome in the comments if you're watching live for our elder, Ras Sekou. Royal greetings, Ras Sekou.
Greetings, my dear brother, Ras Kwasi.
Blessing.
You hear me?
How are you feeling? Yes, we hear you clearly.
Yes, I'm feeling strong. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling thankful. Giving thanks for the month of March. Giving thanks for healing up and saluting our great women. The feminine energy is the most is the strongest energy.
Yes.
Some people say men is the core, and everything come out of a man. But I think that everything comes from the female. Without the female, there will be no male. Because if you look at every seed, every animal, you look at the female. The female is basically the strongest and the most courageous. Look at the lion and the lioness. Excuse me. So we salute the women today. We have some giant women on the platform today, and we want to salute them, giving thanks. So for all the great sisters, Sister Rakina, Sister Imani, Sister Asantewaa. We're giving thanks for 3 great sisters that will be here to share their information as the legendary writers and also people who actually are involved in day-to-day activities in terms of Rastafari and the Pan-African community um, across the diaspora. So we salute them and very thankful for Ras Kwasi, my dear brother, who continue to open up doors. So we give thanks.
Thanks. Before we bring out these powerhouses, how are you feeling about the world situation? You know, as a astute geopolitical analyst, watching America be pulled into yet another endless war in the Middle East. How are you feeling about what's happening?
Well, to be honest, I'm very saddened. I'm very saddened, especially being here in the belly of the beast, to being in the heart of Babylon, the United States of America. Um, it's very sad because here it is another is another imperialist war. There's no other than an imperialist war. So we feel saddened, you know, for the provoked attack by the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic of what we call Iran, which used to be the great Persia.
Yes.
So I'm very saddened. The talks was taking place apparently, and this is the second time that America has attacked Iran while having discussion in terms of making a so-called deal. So
gross violation of international
this
law.
tells us that for the most part, once you as a U.S. imperialist, you are basically we go back to the stage of the red man, and the red man said, you know, the pale man speaks with forked tongues. So, you know, so we have to remember that at the back and in the front of our head, you know, because there are a lot of tricksters. And this is a war that's going to cause a lot of harm.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's just starting, and people, gas, where I am, is about close to $4, something like that.
Yes.
And you gas going to reach the extreme prices, and then we already in a state of what we call a recession.
Yeah.
We two quarters basically that was under the mark. So we basically in terms of unemployment. So now we at a state of recession, and basically we could head, if we end up with 3 going on to 4 quarters, we could be heading to a clear state of economic depression.
Definitely.
So what is taking place, as you know, Iran is, although it's the underdog and was bullied, they are taking a lot of punches, like the Vietnamese people back in the 60s and early 70s, but they are winning on all Iran has to do is to survive and keep on pelting punches, you know. So Iran is winning. I would say from where I stand and where I sit at this point, Iran is winning. And what is going on is that Iran was attacked because Iran basically is a big country. You know, Iran, if you look at it on your map, you will see that Iran is a big country. It's probably about twice times the size of Germany. It's approximately the size of what do you call Western Europe. And so it is massive. It has a large population of approximately 90 to 93 million people. So these are the things that are the underestimation of Iran. Iran also, as I said before, was called Persia, and many people tried to conquer it, including Alexander the Thief, or they call him Alexander the Thief.
Alexander the Greek.
I say Alexander the Thief because he was just thieving people land.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, so
But I,
yes,
I really value your opinion. You know, as a young Ras, we used to sit at the feet of the elders and we would get the news from our elders and get that perspective. And I know so many young Rasses are out here and really don't understand or can't put together what they're watching or what they're hearing. They may be hearing bits and pieces. So to be able to have an elder of your esteem and your awareness and political astuteness just speak on these situations, I think is very important, so that we know in terms of our global family what time it is and what is taking place. So I want to really give thanks for the eye, Ras Sekou,
yes, I give
for
thanks. I give
always
thanks.
just keeping it very
Yes,
straight
I.
with us.
Yes,
I
yes.
see
The
all of our
ancestors, the ancestors are satisfied. You know.
Yes, I see all our
Yeah.
guests are here, so I won't keep these ladies welcome. This is not about us today, Raseko. This is
Yes,
about
yes.
the
Well,
ladies.
I can stay behind because I believe that the sisters are the powerhouses. They're the ones without the sisters, we have no teachers. You know, they're the first teachers of the youths. You
Yes,
know, and so therefore it is important for us to stay behind and let them run with the power. You know, we need the strong woman.
yes. So, Lion Pride, who are watching live, in the comments, please help us to give a warm welcome to our panel of guests today. These powerful, powerful sisters that are going to share with us their insights. They're all authors. We're going to learn about their books. And most importantly, we're going to buy their books. So get ready with your wallet to purchase.
Raswafi?
Yes, greetings. Yes, Raseko. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
I can hear
Ra-
you.
Okay, oh,
Okay.
you can hear me. Okay, what beautiful,
Yes.
beautiful. How you
Uh,
doing, Sister Imani?
yes, we have a new guest
You
here.
still can hear me.
These two
That's
sisters
Sister
have.
Rakina?
Yes. What you're saying something, Raseko?
Greetings.
Yes, we hear you. Are you hearing? Raseko.
Greetings.
Yes, Raseko, can you hear? All right, we're gonna
Greetings,
sort.
greetings.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear? Can you hear? All right, we're gonna sort it out. We have two sisters that are no stranger to the Lion Voice Network. Sister Rokina, Dr. Asantewaa. They are regulars at this point on the platform, but we have
Greetings.
someone brand new to the platform, and someone that I'm very honored to host for the first time. And we're going to do a one-on-one shortly, so stay tuned for that as well. So I'm going to allow the eye to do the first intro. Dr. Imani Tafari, Ama, please unmute. Looking so royal today, and just introduce yourself to the Lion Voice Network.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, very happy to join the Land Voice Network. And I'm Anita Tafari Ama, and I'm a scholar activist, I'm a curator, I'm an educator, multimedia journalist, single mom, and giving thanks for being Rastafari's history in all of this.
And where are you today? Where in the world are you joining?
I'm in Wikiwaki, which is in Bull Bay, St. Andrew, Jamaica, between the lake and the sea. That's where you can find me.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Give thanks. Give thanks. Can you, excuse me, can you give us a little history, a little background?
Okay, you mean with the book?
No, about yourself.
Oh, okay, so I was born in Albion in Manchester, and we in Albion say, as Albion women, we are strong because we've had to be that because of the earth that we come from. We are from a rural, let us say, rural farming community, and I went to Albion Primary School in my early days. My siblings went to, as it was then called, West Indies College, but I was rooted in the community school before going to Manchester High School. Did 7 years there up to sixth form. Then went to UE, the University of the West Indies at Mona, and I initially did a first degree in communication with language and literature, and then I got fellowships from the people and the government of the Netherlands, and did my master's and doctorate in at the Institute of Social Studies. And that's how I came to actually write the book that I'll talk about today, because Blood, Bullets, and Bodies: Sexual Politics Below Jamaica's Poverty Line
Wow.
is the title of my doctoral thesis turned book. And I lived in the inner city community of Southside for a while, quite a long while,
Okay.
in order to do that book.
Okay. Big up all our Southside family, Life Yard,
Like,
Rasta Boki, Eyeball, Sister Tiana, all of the Southside family. We have a good Southside family here.
yeah.
Powerful work. I'm very fascinated about your book. I'm going to give the other sisters, for those who are joining us for the first time and may not know our esteemed panel. Sister Rakina, can you just give us a brief intro of the eye? No stranger, she's part of our family here. Hold on, one moment. I see you're muted. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, greetings everyone. Thank you for having me here again. I'm very happy to be here. Not necessarily happy to be on this side of the Atlantic, however. I am in Atlanta, Georgia, in the
Yes,
United Snakes,
yes,
America. And I wish I was home, honestly.
yes,
I wish
yes,
I was back in Africa. I was in Burkina Faso. Most recent trip to Africa was Burkina Faso and Ghana. That was the end of last year into the beginning of this year. And I miss home.
yes. I
So,
want,
yes, I am a health professional, a nurse practitioner. I was born and raised in Chicago, also on the south side of
yes,
Chicago,
yes,
born on
yes,
the west side. And I lived in Chicago for most of my life, went to school there, did undergraduate at Northwestern University, and then transitioned, moved to Madison, Wisconsin, where I did graduate studies in nursing. I'm a nurse practitioner. My area of specialization is women's health. And
okay,
then I did postgraduate studies in global health, and also obtained a fellowship from my working abroad in global clinical education. So I lived in Tanzania and Uganda, and I taught nursing students in those countries. Also lived in Zambia and did a health project there. So I've been traveling to Africa since I was a teenager. First trip was to Ghana. I was 15. I went on my own. I was compelled to do that. Um,
and we're going to talk about that because your life is like a blockbuster movie. We want to see the Sister Rakina movie at some point
yes.
because it really is so fascinating. But I want to stick a pin right there because we're going to come forward to you to talk about your book, which I think is a must have for this audience. We're going to talk about why she's sad being in the West. We're going to get a lot deeper into it. But before that, I want to introduce our next panelist, Dr. Asantewaa Oppong-Wadie. And I'm not supposed to say this publicly, but this is one of my favorite guests on the line. I'm biased. I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to say that. I'm supposed to be non-partial. I love all of my guests the same, but I love her a little bit more. I'm not supposed to say that because of her passion, her ability to to paint a picture, in terms of how she tells stories. I really am excited. Um, Please introduce yourself.
Greetings, blessings, and love. Give thanks to Jasmine Kwasi for this invitation, Ras Sekou for inviting me onto the panel this afternoon. Greetings to all my co-panelists. It's so lovely to see so many women who have done tremendous work. Um, my name is Dr. Asantewaa Oppong-Wadie. I hold a doctoral degree in education from Northern Illinois University, and I've been on this panel. I'm sorry, on the program before, so I think my background story is well known. But currently, I teach history at DePaul University. I am also the co-founder of one of the first African American homeschool co-ops in the city of Chicago.
Okay.
And we are in the middle of our year, about to wind down here. And it is our duty, an obligation every year to offer education centered around ourselves. And that is kind of what my article is about, and I'll talk more about that once we get into the literature itself.
Yes.
But beyond that, I do Empress Menen Day in Chicago every year. This is our 11th year, honoring the Empress in the city of Chicago. I was truly inspired when I went to the VI at the sisters who were working in St. Croix to bring about an Empress Menen Day. And I came back to Chicago with that zeal, like it's going to happen in the city. And we've been able to do it for 11 years. So we give thanks.
Give thanks, mightyful, mightyful. Ras Sekou, are you hearing now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing you now.
Okay, beautiful. We just did the preliminary introductions.
Yes.
We're going to get into the literature now. Do you want to say anything before we get into the books?
I would like for the sisters to at least give a vibes on this month, which the white structure to call Women's Month. So I would like each person to talk about Women's Month and what it means to them, and what they did for this month in terms of to inspire our young sisters and other women across the in the various areas where they are.
Okay. Can we start with Dr. Imani?
Sure. Well, International Women's Month, which is usually highlighted by International Women's Day, which is March 8th. The month is for the whole celebration of women's achievements, women's resilience, acknowledging the role that women play in spite of the obstacles that are structurally in our pathway on the road to development. And to highlight this month, because I'm an opinion writer in the Jamaica Gleaner, I wrote an article about it, but also showing the contradictions that we have to face, because here we are celebrating Women's Month, yet one of the biggest problems that we face, not only in Jamaica, but worldwide, is the problem of gender-based violence. And when we say gender-based violence, we're talking about violence that women experience because they're women, because of the institutionalized ways in which male dominance has been stitched into our societies. And I highlighted two of the most egregious cases that we have had of this problem in Jamaica recently by two very prominent men. And one thing that we emphasize as advocates for women's liberation generally is that the dangers women sometimes face doesn't come from strangers. It oftentimes comes from the relationships that they have with their intimate partners. And in these two prominent situations, women were murdered, and the lies that were told to cover up the murders were the most extraordinary, as these perpetrators tried to evade justice. And in one case, one of the perpetrators actually fired shots into the woman's vagina. And I emphasize it because of the way in which her body was used as a weapon in itself. Because he researched the fact that the womb acts as a silencer. And having done that, he actually perpetrated a story for many weeks to say that she had died from natural causes. And so, just before he was to go to trial, he pleaded guilty. So he was served with the manslaughter charge, which was a lesser charge, and he was therefore awarded a sentence that allows him to have a minimal stay in prison before parole, which was a manipulation of the justice system, which I'm suggesting is a classist kind of manipulation because he knew that the way he could defend himself because of his position in society was an unjust uh, diversion from how he would have been treated if he had gone to trial. So I say all of that to say we need to be mindful of the need for gender equality and equality on a whole because the recent ruling from the UN Security Council that reparations is due to us as Black people, African people, after enslavement. Long incoming, of course, but it's part of the same struggle.
Give thanks, give thanks. And we'll continue. Dr. Asantewaa, what does this month mean to the eye?
Always, I would say, Women's History Month is a time where organizations that typically don't land their focus on just something token. And, it's kind of like Black History Month, it's nice, but that can't be the sum total. So this month I had so many invitations, and there's even some more left in the last couple of days of this month to go to different organizations and to speak. Again, this is not something that you do all the time. It's a token action, but nonetheless, it fills that gap where you don't know the power of the human beings that make up your church, make up your social organization. So it's a good gateway. It's a great gateway, I would say. But understand that the proposal is already accepted in the Black community to make April Black Women's History Month. That's already here. That's already accepted. That's accepted nationwide. So there just isn't enough space in 30 days or 31 days of March to do that, to do this tremendous work. So we need the extended time.
Okay, so you've given us a new piece of news. I didn't know about Black Women's Month. That's something we're gonna have to do some more research. I have a big announcement to make before the end of this episode about our Empress Men in panel. I haven't told anybody who the panelists are, but I have a feeling that I'm gonna tell you about one of them today. I'm just letting you know. Sister Rakina.
Yes. So I am a Pan-Africanist and I'm an African woman. Lately there's been a lot of confusion about identity.
Yes.
I thought we had moved past that, but we have not. And this confusion, especially, I would say, so-called African Americans, I've dropped the American part a long time ago.
Okay.
Among Africans born in America, thinking that we can be a nation without the rest of us, without the rest of the diaspora and without a land base.
Yes.
That's a lot of confusion that's out there. So, but my point here is that when I study Pan-Africanism, the names that come up are usually of men.
Yes.
So I took a little bit of time this morning, in the spirit of libation, in the spirit of calling our ancestors, to just jot down a few names of women that were important in the anti-colonial and Pan-African struggle that played a key role. And I'll just read some of those names.
Please.
Of course, there's Asantewaa,
Ashe.
Queen Nzinga,
Ashe.
Queen Nyanenga from
Ashe.
Burkina Faso, Empress Taitu,
Ashe.
Amy Ashwood Garvey,
Ashe.
Amy Jacques Garvey,
Ashe.
Shirley Graham Du Bois,
Ashe.
Anna J. Cooper,
Ashe.
Anna H. Jones,
Ashe.
Adelaide Kesley Hayford,
Ashe.
Ida Gibbs Hunt,
Ashe.
Fumilayo Ransom Kuti,
Ashe.
Claudia Jones,
Ashe.
Madam Jean
Ashe.
and Ruth
Ashe.
Neto, co-founders of the Pan-African Women's Organization. Winnie Mandela,
Ashe.
Josina Michelle,
Ashe.
Queen Mother Audley Moore.
Ashe.
Those are just a few names that I came up with off the top of my head. Of course, there are many more. I'm sure my co-panelists can name many, many more that I miss. But these are, some of our ancestors that I think we need to call and keep in mind and, not let them be relegated to, the back of, history and, their names are not known. Some of these names are known to you and others may not be known. So we need to call their names. We need to study their works. They are ancestors and history is very important in terms of, guiding us in the present and in the future. So yes, African or Women's History Month, it's important for us to remember our sisters, those that are with us and those that are no longer with us. So, taking time, I'm really happy to hear about the month of April. I didn't know that either, but, taking the time to remember our sisters is very, very important. And I just want to say a little bit about gender-based violence.
Yes.
Annie talked about that. And as a health professional, I have seen this. We know the data is about 1 in 3 women have experienced some form of gender-based violence.
Wow.
And in the patients that I've seen in various health settings, you hear the stories. And as the sister said, most of the time it's not strangers, it's people that they know. But I also want to highlight, or lowlight, it's not really highlighting, I want to bring to our attention our sisters in Sudan and sisters in the Congo.
Okay.
Because, there are wars happening in those areas and sisters are being abused. It's despicable what is really happening to women globally, but in particular in Sudan and in the Congo, where women are raped, abused. It's just really despicable what is happening to women. So I think we need to, continue the struggle, women's struggle within the Pan-African struggle and within Ras Tafari. We need to make sure that we don't forget about our sisters and our women in those struggles, because we are the what do I say? We are the origin of humanity. We deserve our place, and it's important. We are the teachers, we are the mothers, the women.
Give thanks. Very powerful. And one of the reasons I started a movement about the Rastafari man standard is because I think we have to teach our young men how to deal properly with women with that respect, because you should never as a man put your hands on any woman, for any reason. I mean, defending yourself, I'm not going to tell you to be brutalized yourself, but offensively. And we have experienced this in our Washington, D.C. community with domestic violence allegations and issues. So it's nothing, it is something that impacts the Rastafari community and the Pan-African community and Black people in general and humanity in general. So I'm glad that we have two people who have raised that issue here, and just know that this is a platform that we are unafraid to address these topics. No matter how uncomfortable they may be, these are the things that we have to address, because these things cannot enter Zion. If we're building the alternative to Babylon, it can be an alternative that include domestic violence. That cannot enter the gates of Zion and what we are seeking to build on earth. So I just want to put that through as well. Anything further before we get into the books, Elder Sekou?
Well, I want to see. We must not remember. I have a couple special sisters that I want to mention. Some of them are our ancestors, but they made a great mark on me as an individual. I want to call out Fanny Lou,
yes,
from Alabama, from Mississippi. I want to call out our dear sister Sata Shaku, who just recently passed into the ancestral realm. And I want to call out Sister Claudia Jones,
yes,
who lived here in the back in the 30s, and I think she also went live in London, England. So I want to really call out those three for the works they have done. And at this point in time, we need courageous women like those to continue to give us the strength. I would like just to have a brief comment by Sister Asantewaa on Empress Taitu. Why? Because the 1st of March is generally the victory of Adwa. And a lot of people doesn't realize that the importance that Empress Taitu played in that victory, having her own battalion and so on, I think was very vital. She stood at the side of Emperor Menelik, and she took to give Ethiopia a great victory over European power at the time, what they call the Lotalian. Some people say Italy. So I would like her to, if she can, make a quick mention, give us a vibes on Sister Empress Taitu.
Give thanks. But there were two elements that I wanted to say about Empress Taitu. For those who do not know, and her story is widely known, during the Italian aggression in the late 1800s, 1896, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, when they came saying that, they were entitled to Ethiopia, that Ethiopia was in fact Italy's backyard. They came with deception, writing two different treaties, and trying to trick the Ethiopian nation into signing on to being a protectorate. It was Empress Taitu who stood up with the Italians present, their generals present, when Emperor Menelik was there, and being very diplomatic, as kings are supposed to do and emperors are supposed to do. It was Empress Taitu who stood up and berated and openly berated the Italians and said, you know what? We know you're deceiving us. You want to write one treaty in Italian, you want to write the other one in Amharic, and you want to say two different things, and you want us to sign. No one here is a fool. No one is going to sign something because they are afraid of warfare. We know warfare. If warfare is what you want, go ahead. Come on, bring it. We'll be on the battlefield waiting. Essentially, that's what she told the Italian general. And this was out of place. It was not protocol. And she saw the polite conversation happening and decided that no, it isn't protocol, but I'm going to take the stand here and let him know. And the Italian generals wrote in their notes that, Emperor Menelik has a wife that cannot be controlled. You know what I'm saying? And she is a braggart, and essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, somebody who is running her mouth essentially, and saying that she's inviting war. But Empress Taitu knew who she was talking to. These are people who are deceived. You cannot win with them. And it was already said on the program today that they are fork-tongued people, and so they come for war, right? And they're in the midst of this war. And we talk about Empress Taitu bringing a battalion onto the field. And indeed she does, leads her own battalion onto the field. But she does not ever, no one anywhere that I have read, and if you've read something different, please correct me, does she fire a shot? She does not fire a shot. She does not wield a knife. No. She stands unafraid of shots here, supervising what is happening. And as she sees that, the men are running because some of them have not experienced the kind of warfare that was going to be waged with, these long rifles and these newer guns. So when they see the damage being done to their peers, they are afraid. They turn to run, and it is Empress Taitu who says, no, go back and face the enemy. She can do that because she's not busy fighting, right? She's just watching. And we also get reports from the battlefield that she's chanting. She is fighting a spiritual warfare as she is standing there. And it is Empress Taitu also who noticed that, wait a minute, the Italians are in our country really at a time before pipe-borne water. And all the water that is being brought to them are being brought by Ethiopian women who they have hired. And it is hot in Ethiopia. And what if I went to those Ethiopian women? I know how to talk to them. I know how to tell them, what, sis, I can give you whatever he's going to give you in terms of money for today. I can give you that and some more. So it's Empress Taitu who notices their Achilles heel. They're dependent upon our women to survive in this on this landscape. They don't know how to feed themselves here. They don't know how to get even water for themselves. And she went and recruited those women who had been hired by the Italians to bring water and to rush in with first aid and etc. No, you're going to be with us, and thereby, isolated those Italian soldiers without proper water, cut off from their, their resources. They gave in. And so I see two dynamics here. I see a woman who is forthright and vocal, and they like to say that we angry. But was she angry, or was she, considerate and acting in the full vested position of a mother who has the most to lose? I bring these children here. I'm going to cry and cry and cry and cry when they go. No. You're not going to come and slaughter our people, but you also will not disturb the sovereignty of this nation. Absolutely not. So, she flew out of protocol and flew in someone's face and told them off, but that was part of the protection. And if we go back into the Nile Valley history, and I won't take much more time here, I'm stopping myself. If we go back into Nile Valley history, we see that was the role of the queen. That was the role of the co-regent, for her to just, no, we're going to shut this down right here. We don't even need to go no further. You know what I'm saying? She was already ready and in their face. So I love that about her. I love also that she used that soft power with bullets flying. She just stood there to encourage, to chant, and to pray them up. Like, that can be taken apart. That's a whole nother show. But I mean, she's powerful, hard power and soft power. She was using them both. And hence we have the victory at the Battle of Accra. And I'm not disputing what the soldiers did. I'm just saying.
This is why, family, that you see, I have to be a little biased. You see why, you understand why I'm here with my ital snacks like me I watch a movie, you know. And me and Taito dep on the horse and look at the soldier there when she's talking. So this is the power that we have as African people to transmit the knowledge in such a fascinating way. Wow.
Living griot.
Living griot. So
living griot.
Where are we going, Elder? I'm in.
Well, I just want to add. That to what Mama Asantewaa, Dr. Asantewaa just said in relation to Empress Taito. I want to add that for what Empress Asantewaa just said, I want to say that it shows that Empress Taito at that time in the 19th century was a brilliant strategist. That was brilliant strategy to cut off the Lotalians or the Italians' water source, which was the same Ethiopian woman, and without water, and a similar situation may go into play in this war that is taking place in West Asia right now, in terms of the water bases which is basically coming out of the sea, in Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Dubai and those places which need desalinated water. So I'm glad that Sister Asantewaa could bring us up to score with that brief piece of history, because we must remember the Battle of Adwa, March 1st, and this coming towards the end of March is much inspiration for us here on the front line. So we give thanks for that. If anyone else want to add anything else in relation to Empress Taito and the Battle of Adwa, we also would appreciate it. The panel. Anybody else from the panel?
Yes, I just want to add a footnote to say, Asantewaa, to use her namesake's example, did something similar, rousing the men in Ghana when they wouldn't fight the British to similarly get up and her disappointment, of course, was when she looked at the guns that they had in comparison to the guns being wielded by the British. She realized the reason for their weakness, because, of course, as you know, guns were one of the items that Europeans traded for people in the enslavement trade, and it was, of course, inferior guns. So, Asantewaa, you have a powerful name there to remind us too of that history.
Beautiful.
I just want to, I would like to add that the women of Africa, you talk about those women that were bringing the water. So there are a lot of sisters whose names we don't know, but who also played a critical role in these struggles. So it's important to remember them. I just want to say a little bit about Queen Yanenga. I don't know how many of you have heard of Queen Yanenga of what is now Burkina Faso.
I'm in class, Mama Rakina. I'm sitting in my class with my notebook now. All right.
So she also was a warrior who fought against the French during the time of pre-colonialism, when the French were coming into that area of the continent, which is much larger was much larger than the area we know as Burkina Faso today. So her story is that her father didn't have any sons. He only had daughters. And so the other daughters went off and got married, and he decided that this daughter was the one he needed to train as his heir and to fight against, French colonialism as they were coming into their land. So he trained her to be a warrior. And if you see Yananga depicted today, you see her on a horse with a spear. In fact, in Burkina Faso, they are really, really masters at brass, bronze.
Yes.
So bronze statues. So you'll see the bronze statue with a woman on a horse with a spear. That is Yananga. And during the Pan-African Film Festival, which Burkina Faso is known to host every other year in Ouagadougou, the capital, it's a film festival and it's also an awards ceremony. So you have different films competing in different categories. And the award that they get, instead of in the US, they get an Oscar. But in Burkina Faso, for this Pan-African Film Festival, they get a Yananga. It's a small statue of Yananga. The other thing about Yananga is that she eventually did go off and she got married and she had a son. And the son was named Ouedraogo, which means stallion. So in Burkina Faso, you see a lot of people with the last name Ouedraogo. It's a common last name. So Queen Yananga is considered the mother of the Mosi people. The Mosi people are the dominant ethnic group in Burkina Faso. So she was a powerful sister, and we must also remember her.
Wow, wow,
Give
wow.
thanks. Give thanks.
All right. I want to dive into some of these books now.
Yes.
I want the audience to realize that usually you'd have to pay $100 just to get a seat to see these ladies. That's the value that you're getting for free here. The least that we can do is to purchase the books that they're going to be talking about. Don't let them give this beautiful oration and we do not leave them with some money in their accounts. You know what I mean? I want that for my sisters. And can you imagine? Let me just go on my soapbox for a moment, please. Let me just take a step on the soapbox. Can you imagine if right now we just hit 66,000 subscribers here on YouTube on the Lion Voice Network? So I'm not talking about casual audience. I'm talking about the Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. Can you imagine if 50,000 of that 66,000 were to give $10 to each guest? Can you imagine what these caliber of women would do to wake up with 500,000 US dollars in their account? We have that power as a community, and I want us to embrace that power. Even if 100 people embrace it today, and next time it's 200, or if it's 50, but I want someone who is hearing my words here, the hundreds that will watch on the replay, take out your, your electronic payment. We're gonna have all of the contact information in the description. Go and purchase the book. Support this power and let us put capital in the hands of the workers. All right, now come off of the soapbox now, and we can continue with the programming. Can we welcome Dr. Amani to talk about her book? Sounded so interesting, and the topic of research. So I'm gonna ask the eye to kick it off for us.
Okay.
In terms of what is the book about, what will the reader attain from this work?
And could she show us a copy of the book?
Yes, if you have a copy. Do you have a copy anywhere close? Or I'll bring it up online. Is it online? I can bring it up?
Yes, yes, definitely you can bring it up, please.
Okay.
If you
Is
go
it?
to Beaten Track Publishing, if you Google me with Beaten
Yeah.
Track Publishing, you'll see all the details there.
Okay. Okay. Continue. I'll bring it up.
Okay, so I have long and for many years done research in inner city communities, so-called inner city communities. And if people know Jamaica's political history, they'll know that these inner city communities, what people popularly call the ghetto, were constructed intentionally by our two main political parties as a way of dividing and ruling us. Pretty much, that's what it is. And they also manipulated these communities with what we call scarce benefits and spoils, so that people would be loyal to these different political parties. So my work looks at how violence, because violence was one of the mechanisms that the political parties use to control the communities. So, and I look at how violence works in these areas, how relationships work, how people survive, and how all of this is connected, especially for young people who are living in these underserved, impoverished communities. The research that I've done shows that something important connects people in these areas. People's choices, they're not really, they don't really have access to the freest choices possible. They are actually shaped by where they live and what they face and the options that they have and actually don't have. So originally, I developed this as a what we call participatory action research, living in the community. I lived in Southside for quite a while in order to do this work, and it shows that there's a connection amongst the structural poverty that people are constructed in, and when we talk about how people actually survive, we might feel judgmental to say, so why people do things like exchange sex for materiality, a form of prostitution. But it is because of the limited options that people have. And I'm not saying that everybody does that, definitely not. But in terms of calling the book Blood, Bullets, and Bodies with a subtext, sexual politics below Jamaica's poverty line, I was looking at how people's survival strategies and their relationships are woven into this fabric of poverty and violence and this struggle to survive by any means necessary, and to demonstrate that the way people end up surviving and acting is constrained by the pressures that they face as men, as women, as boys and girls, and as a set of people who have to struggle against the odds to experience justice, because from the get-go they are marked for a deeper and a broader struggle than people who are from privileged communities. So much for that's it, that is how I'd introduce it. So Blood, Bullets, and Bodies obviously is talking about the violence, and the sexual politics is really about the power in relationships between men and women below the poverty line.
Give thanks. One of the things I don't think we talk about a lot in our culture is this connection between sexual behavior and income. You know what I mean? Can you speak? You made mention and you were clear that it's not necessarily that everybody's doing this, but I think one of the side or one of the consequences of social programming is that this type of behavior, this kind of prostitution exchange, has now become not just the purview of these low income communities, but through rap music, through dancehall music, this has become almost like the mainstream culture now, where sex is very transactional. Can you speak to what is the roots of this? Do you agree with that assessment? And what is that connection between economics and sexual behavior?
Well, it's not just about people who live in underserved communities. In general relationships, there's that transaction of, because the very concept that man is the breadwinner presupposes that males should provide the material wherewithal for women's survival, and that the unspoken part of this equation is that they should also receive the sexual favors in exchange for providing that support. And I would want to point out that when you have sex tourism, for example, on the other side of the island, there's not much discussion about it, although it is woven into the tourism product. Tourists come here just like white people did under enslavement, expecting to have access to black male and female bodies. So that's a whole nother story in terms of the tourism economy, because we tout that tourism is our biggest income earner, our biggest foreign exchange earner. And yet also we have to note that a lot of the hotels, for example, that dominate the tourism industry do not leave their money in Jamaica or in the rest of the Caribbean. They expatriate their funds. So a lot of the imagined benefit is not coming to the country. That's number one. Number two, this whole transaction of sex for materiality. You see a lot of divorce cases that end up in the course because women stop cooking, cleaning, washing, and having sex, which is part of the package of the relationship. And a lot of women will not contemplate having a relationship with a man if they don't get that dividend, that sex, that materiality for their sexual exchange. So we have to even look back at how it is that we came to be having this kind of transactional relationship in the first place. So because we were enslaved by Europeans, a lot of their behaviors we mimicked, and the notion of God being the head of man and man being the head of woman, that hierarchy is something that is based on the Bible, and that version of Judeo-Christian ethic passed down to us. A lot of people didn't question, how they should receive this kind of theological prescription for behavior. So when St. Paul says, husbands, love your wives, and women, submit to your husbands, that is part of the power relationship that we also reproduce because of the Christian belief system. So it is taken to another level when you have no other option or choice because of your material circumstances. Living in poverty is a big part of that impulse and that impetus to behave like that. So, for example, I remember being in an interview situation with a group of women, and I posed the question, so what do you look for in a relationship? And the women's, I remember this woman said, well, it starts with help, and then it goes to like, and then it goes to love, because you can't be with a man if he's not helping you. And I said, oh, really? And then one person decided to ask me, so what do I look for? And I said, well, I look for love. And the woman said to me, well, you have lived uptown too long, because from you're going to be looking for love first. That is a naive approach, because you can't be looking for love with someone who doesn't have the means to help you. And that exchange stayed with me all these years, to think maybe I have been conditioned because I have been raised as an independent kind of woman. My mother, you must always have your vex money. So I never really grew up depending on a man as such. But in a situation where the material condition prescribes that you need to look out for that support first and foremost, then it's going to be a big factor, whether you're uptown, downtown, or around town.
Yes. I was gonna say that uptown it's presupposed that the man is coming with the resources. So, you have that luxury to say I'm looking for love. But if that man don't have certain, car, house, job, he's not even gonna qualify.
Exactly.
So, you know what I mean? So, I think our inner city sisters are just expressing the reality, or a reality, so it's very interesting when you really see the similarities, but how it's branded in one space as opposed to how it's branded in another space,
Yes, and
because
speaking of branding, it's
yes,
the same way that men, in order to survive, might resort to violence because that is the
exactly,
dividend that provides them with some advantage. Because if they're seen as a weak man or a weak fence, as they're called, or other epithets that is not for polite discussion, um, then they're not able to leverage even their own survival or even the safety of their manhood, because people will perceive them as not being able to, stand up for
yes,
what being a man means in that environment. And therefore you have to be a tug in order to demonstrate that you're a man. So the equation between violence and masculinity is incidental to that situation too, because no weak man gets the respect that a strong man does.
yes. And a weak man is not gonna get any ladies either. So it's
Noted. And a
all,
lot of women find the violent man sexy because you
yes,
even see it in the graffiti on the streets, like the sexy man is the violent man. You see it in the images that people even
yes.
draw, because I did a kind of study of the graffiti, and that struck me as being very important.
Wow.
Sister Imani,
Yes. Here we
um,
go.
could you what you would say, bring together what you were speaking of in terms of the classism as it relates to um, male and female, and why the brutality comes in. I would like you to look at that in terms of sex exploitation in the workplace. How you see that, especially in relation to Jamaican society or Caribbean society.
Yes, well, you have to look at also the political economy, the intersection of power and masculinity. So patriarchy is the fancy word that we use to discuss male dominance. And, there was a very important, speaking of Italians, Italian thinker called Antonio Gramsci, who wrote Letters from Prison because he was a leftist during the Italian um, Mussolini's rise of fascism. And he wrote Letters from Prison, and he developed this concept of hegemony. And hegemony is when the people who are dominated actually internalize that domination and perform it as if it were their own. So the notion that you have a combination of hegemony and masculinity, it's now called hegemonic masculinity. When somebody is even born in a privileged class, they learn very early that men have certain privileges because they are men. There's a phrase that we have: boys will be boys. And from that you understand that when men behave in a particular way to either be violent or dominate women or dominate other men who are not seen as powerful as them, this is what they call the patriarchal dividend. And so across classes, men exercise power through violence. And we can only see the way the war in West Asia is playing out, because some men had bigger guns and bigger bullets and bigger bombs. They thought that they could dominate brown people who they perceived as weaker in power and with weaker weapons and so on, only to find out after the fact, unfortunately for all of us, that their notion of white male power in a opposite in an upper class situation was mistaken. And therefore what Ras Sekou was talking about earlier about the underdog is playing out in showing that power, even though it's masculine power, is not a straightforward thing if men don't choose to be that way under those circumstances. But generally, when you talk about male power in society and in the workplace now, it is the reason why the sexual harassment bill would have to be brought into place be brought into play, because sexual harassment happens when men who are in power in the workplace think that they can get sexual favors from women who are lesser in power in that environment, because they're as a means of dominating not only the pay that you get as part of your employment, but to also get extra out of the situation by getting sexual favors from women, because they're fearful of losing their jobs, or in awe of the power that is wielded by the man who is in a more lucrative position than they are. So that it is complicated if you think it is just your own survival that you're dealing with. No, you have to fend off this power machinery that sometimes silences women, because they're afraid that if they disclose what is happening, it can crush them or hurt them in some other way. And then you have women who replicate this behavior as bosses, because it's not just because the power resides in the male body that it operates like that. Women also perform in this narcissistic way, because it is a form of narcissism. And then that is why they say women are not good bosses for other women, because they exercise power like men are supposed to do, or reputed to do, or used to do, or have in the habit of doing. So it is very complicated to emerge out of this kind of situation to get the right salary that you're supposed to get, because usually the equal pay for equal work doesn't always work, and you have to be on your toes to not capitulate to the sexual domination and the sexual violence simply because you want to keep your job. There are ways in which you can actually advocate for keeping your integrity without having to bow to that kind of pressure.
Give thanks, Sister Marty.
Can I say
Any of the other panelists want to add to or ask any question in relation to Sister Imani's book?
Well, I just have something to say. I can't wait to read both of your books, and I'm so impressed with my sisters on this panel. But I just wanted to add something. Two situations that I witnessed in when I was living in Africa, in Tanzania. One was, it was the end of the day, and we were at the Health Science Center, and it was just me and another faculty member, and the women who cleaned the building were in the building. So, we thought we were the only ones in the building, and we hear a scream. And there was a woman, she was one of the cleaners, who was in a closet, and there was a man who was, we learned he was a medical student, and he was attempting, we stopped him, he was attempting to assault her. And the story continued because he was a medical student and she was just a cleaner. He begged the other faculty member, who was high up on the faculty, and a woman, that this shouldn't be reported because he was a medical student. He was about to be a doctor, and this would not look or go well for him. So it was never reported. The other thing that happened was another faculty, a junior faculty member who was a female, was being harassed to provide sex to one of the high up administrators at the university. And she came to me crying because she wasn't quite sure what to do, because this person determined whether or not she was going to, continue to get her scholarship and continue, she was hoping to get funding for PhD studies. And she just wasn't sure. She didn't want to do this, but she just wasn't sure. And this person was married. In fact, his wife was in one of my classes I was teaching. I was teaching nursing students. So that, this is something that is happening to women all over, including on the continent of Africa.
Wow. Sister Asantewaa, you want to jump in and say something before we move forward?
Yeah. So this is a very, very common problem, but I would just like to ask Dr. Imani, when you say that there is a way to maintain your integrity, would you like to offer, please, for our listeners and for us as panelists, ways that you think women can negotiate that very fickle environment that we call the workspace and maintain their integrity without feeling pressured, particularly as a low-income person, to bow to the sexual pressures?
Break the silence, because when you maintain silence, you protect the perpetrator, and it might be at great risk, but you have to decide who you feel safe to do that disclosure to. But when you speak, when you break your silence, you not only free yourself, but you also undo the power network that serves the perpetrator. So, for example, if that incident had been reported and the medical student had to face to assume responsibility for his action, he would have stopped in his tracks. It would have arrested the development of his career, justly so. But the fact that he got away with it, you never know what he's gone on to do. And that woman who was the victim in that situation, having had to absorb the abuse and the silencing, she's doubly victimized and also without any recourse to justice. And I don't know if you know that during enslavement, there was an instrument that used to be put over the mouths of enslaved people to silence them, physically silence them. And beyond the physical silencing is the psychosocial impact and the mental derangement that comes from the replaying of that abuse and the guilt that accompanies the fact that you didn't do something about it. So when I talk about mechanisms of resistance, it has to do with speaking out and forming alliances with people who can help you. So knowing that there are agencies available, whether it's the Women's Bureau in your country or the church that you attend or the friend that you have that you feel that, you couldn't possibly say this to, it is an emancipatory thing to break the silence, because silence is a powerless space to be in, especially when you're being harmed. And it reinforces that feeling of helplessness and the feeling of being degraded and feeling less than sufficient and unworthy and these kinds of, the basing kind of responses that comes along with sexual abuse. And you only have to look in families that people experience incest in, or in workplaces where that sexual harassment thing is prevalent, or in communities like in church communities, even where women are silenced because of the shaming and the protecting of the perpetrator, because it could be the pastor who is the perpetrator that you are protecting. And it's again a double whammy for you to be protecting your abuser. So in situations where it is more dire to speak, like in the situations that I studied in inner city communities, where people will say informer for dead, meaning if you speak, you can die, and people have died because they talk about what they experience. I'm not just saying go commit suicide or encourage people to harm you by speaking in a situation where you know you will be harmed, but there are ways in which you can disclose without the threat to yourself, and you should try to find that, building alliances and finding the safe spaces for that disclosure.
Yes, just to say a little bit on that. Afterward, I did speak to other women who also had similar stories or things that they had personally experienced. So there was a committee that was formed so that on the whole campus, even not just in the department that I was working in, on the whole campus, women could have a safe space to go and report these kind of incidents, and so that the perpetrators would be held accountable. So, you know, it didn't end just there. It did, you know, something positive came out of it.
But he was never confronted.
I don't think that he was ever confronted, unfortunately. I don't think, yeah, I joined the committee and then I wasn't there much longer after that. So I do not think that that student was ever confronted, unfortunately.
Yes, unfortunately, because, you know, when I was in Southside, I remember there was this woman who the Don, because, you know, you have these de facto power brokers, who we call Dons or area leaders. He wanted this woman's daughter. And usually, when the Don wants your daughter, he gets her. You know, it's a part of that um, transaction of power. But this particular woman, she moved out of the community, took her daughter to another parish, and escaped. But from, you know, most people know that if you live in the area and that request comes, you have to capitulate, and a lot of men, just like what happened to our ancestors under enslavement, had to watch, you know, their daughters being abused in this way without having the power to do anything about it. It is a debilitating feeling, and it's a disempowering feeling for a man to not be able to protect his women folk. And so that is how, you know, you have this hierarchy of patriarchy and hierarchy of male violence, because the man with the most gun, with the biggest gun, they would say, has the most power. And even if you don't have a gun, if you have the association of being a powerful figure, then it goes with the territory that you get, not only political favors, but also sexual favors and respect, which is another part of the resource that takes you a long way.
Some serious contradictions within the whole structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember seeing some time ago a scene in terms of what you mentioned, in terms of I think it was dancehall queen.
Yes.
Where the sister who was I think she was like a little vendor, and the Don wanted a daughter, and the daughter was very much like, it was like every time she heard about this man, it was like she felt like puking, because he was like he could be her father in that sense of the word, but the mother was forced because of what was taking place in terms of having money. She was forced to take the money from the man, and their assistants. So that seems to be a common thing in some stratas of Jamaican society, and I'm sure it extends to other Caribbean societies and even here in North America and Africa.
And
You
how
know,
many stepfathers have had their way with their stepdaughters with the knowledge even of the mothers who have to
yeah,
look the
and it's
other
very
way
and a lot
because
of
he's
women
the
are
breadwinner.
a lot of mothers are very complicit in that situation,
Because they feel
whereby
helpless in
whereby
yes.
whereby they say, oh, if the daughters brings it up, they look at the daughters as you trying to mess up my life in terms of there's a person who bring in the money and so on, and therefore would sometimes deny live in denial of what is going on in the home, and that is a relative thing that happens among us as black people, as African people. It happens in the South. It happens in the Caribbean. It happens in Africa. It's very much common, and it's something that we need to organize around that, because that is a continuation of the woman being suppressed in among us and in our societies. So
And this is, I think, when we talk about the concept, 'cause Rastafari is founded on the building of heaven on earth and this Zion concept. And if we are, going to build a new reality or an alternative to Babylon, then these are the things that have to be rooted out and destroyed, because these are things that even predate, some of these things predate even colonialism. Some of these things come with empire, and we've had our own empires on the continent, and some of these dynamics that, now that we have, reached a period where education is universal or can be universal, and, we recognize the human potential, which if you read the EWF Constitution, it speaks about the idea of God in man, and the ideal of a perfect man, and saving ourselves from annihilation and carving out a place for ourselves in the sun. So to show you that His Majesty was recognizing that black people coming together would have to come together not to return to an ancient concept, but to forge a new, a reality, of
New
human
Genesis.
potential. Yes, of human potential, that divinity, that concept of I and I, meaning that I and the I are the same, the same Godhead that resides in I resides in the I, is a revolutionary concept, that our elders really were articulating. And I think when I'm listening to my sisters talk about gender-based violence, and knowing, as an attorney, I have heard some very atrocious things in terms of goings on. My first area of practice was family law, and you hear some things that make your heart sad, in that realm. And I can tell the item that this thing goes deep in our community, restoring that balance between man and woman, which is why I think Empress Menen and His Majesty are so important. She having gone through child marriage, finding the love of her life, being able to forge a union, that, would ultimately become iconic and legendary. I think it's so important for us to really highlight this union and the potential of what a man coming together with a woman can be. That being said, I'm looking at the time. We don't want to go too much over time. We have 2 more books. I want to just say, let me put this up again. This book here is available. Let me This is on Beaten Track Publishing.com. Dr. Imani's whole catalog. I think 2 other books are available. But I want everyone to focus on this particular work here so we can direct the impact. So purchase this book in particular so that when I reason with Dr. Imani, she said, boy, you know, send me account, not stop ring from Wadie. And I want to be the blame. I want to get the blame for that. So everyone watching live, everyone who's going to watch on the replay, let us purchase this particular book, and then we're going to move on now to our next book. So, Ras Sekou, you can take it away from here.
I want to ask Sister Imani, what's the price of the book so the viewers could know?
Now, last time I checked, it was 35 US.
35 US. So ones and ones put together your little singles and your little tens and the fives and order a book from Empress Imani, Dr. Imani Tafari, and give her that strength. Much love.
Give thanks.
Yes, so we go move forward. We're gonna move forward to Empress Dr. Asantewaa. She was here already on this platform, and she spoke about her book, which she edited, and you know, to me, is a classical piece because it's called the Eternally of the African, and you know, we just saw the Ghanaian president put forward to the United Nations. Dr. Imani mentioned it briefly. The whole idea of the need for reparation that is owed for the Africans here in North America, the Africans in the Caribbean, the Africans in Latin America and South America, the Africans in Europe and so on. This is, reparation is needed to be paid to all Black people by the respective colonializers, whether it's the colonizers here in North America, because every country, every state in this country here, we call the United States, is a colony, and they all at one point in time had slaves, and it's only right that they pay money to those who built America. Right, is the backbone of those who built America, the Black people in America. They're the ones who built. You know, some people say, oh, it's immigrants built America. First and foremost, before immigrants were here, there were Black people who were here, African people, and so on. And they're the ones who built this place, free labor. You know, under capitalism, you know what? If a person worked for someone for 10 years and wasn't paid, that is free labor. And without labor, we cannot have what they call value. Labor puts value to material. So we have to not continue to speak. And when a place like the United States, Argentina, and was
Israel.
United States, Argentina, and I think
Israel.
who bluntly refuse to pay, that they should pay, vote against it, those 3 countries, which are 3 colonial countries that continue to exploit the backs of our people. So without further ado, I want Sister Asantewaa, Dr. Asantewaa. This is a brilliant piece of work. You have a tape, what you call a CD in it, right? It says a big work, 8.5 by 11, and it's it's about $30. Before it was a higher price, but now it's $30. So I would like Sister Dr. Asantewaa to talk about it because it has a lot of brilliant writers and a lot of women also who contributed to this piece of work. Give thanks.
Give thanks.
Take it away, Sister Dr. Asantewaa.
All right. I hope that you can hear me. Give thanks. So the name of the book
Greetings.
is The Eternal Year of African People, and the publisher is Frontline. And so you can
Dr. Asantewaa?
Oh, are you able to hear me? Okay, I'm unmuted, so I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear. You're good. You're good to go.
All right, I was just typing. All right, so the name of the book is The Eternal Year of African People, and the publisher is Frontline. And so you can obtain a copy of the book by going to the Frontline website, and I'll have kindly ask Ras Sekou to repeat that web address. Again, the book is much more affordable now than it was when it originally came out. And it does include a CD and a DVD. I need to say, because we have been here on this very program talking about this book, The Eternal Year, that we wrote the book in response to the UN Declaration calling 2011 the Year of African People, and then moving to say it was the decade of African people. And it was just a idea that sprung in my heart. Like, let's have scholars from all over, situate themselves as African people on this planet, informed, and put out a piece of writing that it would measure our impact in this hour, would create a record for our children coming behind us, saying, like, what did they do in the decade of African people? What was produced? What was published? And I wanted this to be on record as something that was produced and published, everyone coming from their area of expertise. And I think, like Ras Sekou said, the book is full of just brilliant minds, each offering the best of what they have. We also have artists, we also have singers, we also have filmmakers. It's all in the book. And so, yeah, I really hope that people will purchase. I wanted to speak very briefly today about my own article in the book called Nyansepo. And then Nyansepo is a Adinkra symbol from the country of Ghana, from the Akan people. It is their writing system. I'm not going to say what I really want to say, but just forget Europeans who said that we didn't have a writing system. We had several paralinguistic ways of communicating. What are they talking about, right? So, well, this symbol means that it's a knot. And it says, don't untie it. Don't untie the wisdom knot unless you understand why the old woman tied it. And I guess if I were to put it literally, there are older systems of knowing that precede you coming here, and you need to respect them, right? And I said that because coming up, I was in undergrad in the late 80s, and 91 is when I graduated. The Afrocentric movement, Dr. Molefe Asante, Asa Hilliard, John Henry Clark were putting out prolific things, like changing this conversation around education and what is possible. And I was impressed. I remember sitting in, in the class Black Psychology, just like, where were all these people? My whole educational journey, why am I only hearing their names now? And just the profound shift that created in me. And I think that the homeschooler in me was born in those years. But the thing I saw missing, I'm with Molefe Asante and all other Afrocentrists when they say, we have to make education about African people and put whatever subject you're teaching, be it math, be it science, be it reading, put African people at the center. Black children should have Black books, Black images, and taught mathematics and science from their own worldview. I'm with that. And I practice that as habit. But what's the method? As we say in education, what's the pedagogy? And pedagogy simply means, how are you going to do that? Because if you put us all in a straight line and then walk us into the classroom with all chairs facing the front. Classrooms are purposely, I want to say that, according to the researcher Joel Spring, left bland colored because they want to create institutionalism. They want to create sameness of thought. They want to suppress creativity. So if the Afrocentric teacher is going to use the same space, have we achieved our goal? That was my question going into my doctoral research. If you're just going to change the subject and not change the way you teach, have you done it? Right? And so I was in desperation to find someone who had changed up the classroom, like to even get rid of the classroom. Why is that needed? And I want to say something here because I did see Jasmine Kwasi that you're having a homeschooler come on tomorrow. One of the things that is pioneering coming out of the homeschool movement that will affect education going forward, for real, for the rest of the 21st century, is that why are we in this room? You know what I'm saying? When learning is a part of how we live. Like we can come to this room sometimes on some days, but why are we here? Right? When nature is the textbook, right? Like what, so I was looking for someone who had done that. And man, I went through names, I called people, nobody. One day I was like, still like, how am I going to write this dissertation? I don't have an example of what I'm trying to say. And I bumped into an article about a man who had been demoted at the university. His position had been taken away from him because he started teaching chemistry using the Neteru, or the gods of ancient Egypt. And he started changing how chemistry was taught. And I was like, I have to get in touch with him. I reached out. It was a long story, but eventually he got back to me like a year later. And he said, no one has ever asked me to tell my story. And I was like, I need to meet with you. He said, I'm going to be in Chicago. We met. And there was literally almost a year of sitting down with him, sometimes on the phone, taking notes. I had never seen anybody do this. That's what I capture in this article that's in this book. There's another way to teach. And one of the things, I only have time to mention one, that he talks about is that never start teaching anything by good morning, boys and girls, good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, let's open the book to page 1. The first thing that we're going to say, never. He says, one of the things that got him was that, like say you are a gynecologist, you're going to study the womb. You may even have models of the womb all over your office, to help yourself, help your clients understand what you're telling them. He says, how come a European American trained educators don't study the brain? You ask them what's brain science, they don't know. How does the brain work? How does it retain information? They don't know. So he says that one thing that you find when you go back to ancient Africa is that they understood how the brain works, how to make the children remember things, how to teach it so that it becomes like your bone structure. It is not something you have to like, did I learn something today? Wait, what did it? No, you know it, right? And he said, consequently, he starts every class with poetry. And not just any poem. There's some key poems. One of the ones he took me through, like, I've got to say dozens of times, was Langston Hughes. And I just want to read the first stanza of Langston Hughes. The Negro speaks of rivers. And he starts every class. He said he don't take attendance first. He doesn't hand out the syllabi. He walks in and he looks in every eye, because he was teaching primarily at HBCUs, and creating doctors and people who qualified to enter the medical program because they had received the A in chemistry, and went on. I interviewed some of his students who got patents in medicine, and they were just like, praising this method, right? He would say, I have known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. And you may listen to that and be like, what does that have to do with anything? Right? What does that chemistry doesn't come out of that. That's Langston Hughes, being reflective, being poetic. But I disagree, and this is having lived with this information for 20 years. I disagree. When I hear him saying, I've known rivers, I hear the midwife that trained me in midwifery, Empress Imani Harding, who has since passed on as ancestors, who said, begin every subject in midwifery, every child. We wouldn't have domestic abuse happening on the adult level if we start and orient people in the right way. What are rivers? Rivers are the cycles that bring us here. It is not only the Euphrates, it's not only the Congo, it's not only the Nile, it's not only the Chicago River, right? It's the rivers in the human body, right? And we start by teaching the child, you were born out of rivers. The river of menstruation created you. We don't go anywhere before you understand that, right? And that what you all call the pinnacle of your civilization, that is European, American writers call the pinnacle of your civilization in Egypt, that's the late comer. That's the last thing, right? It is in the womb of Africa, in the darkest, blackest Africa, that all of this information emerged from. That information and knowledge flowed down the River Nile into Europe, into Asia, right? And so not only would we talk about rivers at the beginning of the class, he would actually move the chairs because we don't belong in this room. Why are we in a dull monotone, monocolor when we need drums to evoke memory and have them walk what he calls the Nubian vortex, where you go from south to north in a counterclockwise pattern so you can see what our ancestors did to bring this information to the world. Understand that when I say I know rivers, I'm also talking about the great hydrogen atom. Hydrogen is the first atom on the chart of elements, right? Hydrogen is water. Right? It's not only the water, it's the water generator. We only have one human type on the planet who can generate water, the water of gestation, the water of menstruation. But we only got one human type. So we start everything in the wisdom of women. We start that there. And when they forget and they start to think that this is just abstract and just chemical ideas, he said, move the chairs again, get the drums back out again, and begin to walk this Nubian vortex again. Repeat the story of how our ancestors, having learned and mastered the skills of living on this earth, this they did without Walgreens. They didn't have no Wikipedia or artificial intelligence or doctors or, dentists they could call when they needed it. They took this wisdom from intuition, right? And brought it to the world. You came out of that, right? The rivers that we call the Nile and the ones we want to prize, like the Tigris Euphrates. That's what every textbook says. Civilization started on the Tigris Euphrates. Those are, fallopian tubes later, after you came out of the ovaries. You know what I'm saying? Later, right? And so, using this model that first we draw people into deep African history through poetry, through song, through dance, evoke that deep memory. I'm not talking about Black excellence. I'm talking about what gives birth to Black excellence. You know what I'm saying? Black beingness, existentialness. You know what I'm saying? That you keep students grounded there. Never let them leave that. And then everything else is a metaphor. Just like we first learned about hydrogen, just like we first learned about rivers, now this is like that. This is like that. And everything grows out of it. Every single thing. It is kind of like what Carter G. Woodson said it, but I'm thinking of the great Peanut Man, and his name is escaping me right now. Who said that, listen, the earth is what we use to teach.
George Washington Carver,
right? He said, when I take my graduate students out, leave your books, back. What? Everything is right here. Dip your hand into the great female that we call earth. And let's remember gestation. And let's understand that everything is following that cycle. And we can renew ourselves continuously because that's what our ancestors did. When the Persians invaded, the Greeks invaded, people were coming, the Romans coming, they went back to the source. They went right back to Kush. They went back to Napata. They went back to Merowe. They went back to ancient Ghana, Mali, Songhai. They went back to the source, right? When the Arabs came, went back to the source, right? So we're not in the great dark, with the sub-Saharan Africa. We're at the source. We're in the sacred South, right? So it is, in this article, we try to pivot teachers from feeling like you got to stand in front of the classroom and repeat what's already written down. AI is going to close in on all that pre-recorded information that you are just belting out. AI is going to close in on it. The AI can do it better than us. Everything is there on repeat, with pictures. But what they cannot do is give the sensation, the vibration, the vibes, the intellectual exchange that you can do when you're waking somebody up from the root. And so I'll leave it there. I really think that, as I wrote, that this will revolutionize the university. It will revolutionize people, because you won't have a male abuser. He'll be too dipped in the respect for life. Yes, give thanks.
Yes, give thanks, Dr. Asantewaa. That was a brilliant perspective there. Anyone want to ask within the panel? Want to make have a viewpoint or a question to ask Mama Asantewaa?
Catch your breath.
Some people think I just like to talk when I talk, I warned everyone what was coming. And I mean, a force of nature. That's why I'm biased. I love it. If you're watching live, put where you're watching from live in the chat. All the Lion Pride check-in. I see Botswana. I see New Mexico. Who else do I see in here? I see St. Lucia. I see Trinidad. I see Ghana. I see Jamaica. Put your country where you're watching from. Dr. Imani is new here, so we have to show her this is an international platform. We have to welcome her properly and let her feel the warmth from around the globe. And if you're watching on the replay, get involved. We have the greatest comment section on the internet, highest frequency section on the internet. So get involved. If you're watching on the replay, put in the comment section where you're watching from, what you liked about the episode. Help boost the algorithm and send it out near and wide. All right. Ras Sekou, can you hear? Can you hear Ras Sekou? We're having some difficulty. Can you hear Ras Sekou? Can you hear? Ras Sekou, can you hear? Are you hearing? All right. While Ras Sekou works out his situation, we're gonna go to Sister Rakina. This book here now, we spoke about it. It's written like a blockbuster film. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen as well. It's written like a blockbuster film. Nyambani, please just give us a refresher and take us, why is this book important, or what does this add to the Pan-African Trueberry?
So the pronunciation is Yumbani.
Yumbani.
N is almost silent, but not quite. Okay. So it's Yumbani.
Yumbani.
Which is a Kiswahili or Swahili word that means home. So the full title is Yumbani, an African travel memoir. And again, this is the book. And I invite you to come home to Africa. When I first went to the motherland at the age of 15, I went on my own. So I didn't have any adult supervision. I didn't have, I don't come from a family that has money. So as a teenager, I used to make jewelry, earrings, necklaces, and bracelets. And in Chicago, I sold my jewelry in the art fairs. And that is how, in 1973, I was able to raise the money to go on that trip to Ghana. It was my first time on a plane. So in 1973, the cost of the airfare was $450 round trip, which is quadruple that or more now, especially now with with everything that's happening. But you know, $450 still back in 1973 for me as a teenager that really didn't have a full-time job. I was a student. I was a high school student. So that trip, though, I went to Ghana. That trip really changed my life. And there are many stories, you know, over the years, I was able to go back to various African countries, a total of 12 I talk about in the book. And those experiences changed my life. There's so many things that happened that I did during those times that when I look back on it, you know, as an elder now, when I look back on it, I just can't believe that it was me doing those things, or it was me that those things were happening to. You know, a lot of the things that we talked about and the other panelists talked about, you know, of course, the gender-based violence. My chapters on Zambia, I spent a year in Zambia working with a health project with the Ministry of Education. So I was going into the schools. So the whole gender-based violence, my chapters on Zambia talk about that, you know, just the education, you know, what Sister Dr. Asantewaa talked about, the education. I was teaching in government schools in a large classroom. In Tanzania, I had 171 students in one class and 130 some students in another class. And I'm standing up in front of all these students, you know, teaching from, you know, a curriculum that I was given. And, you know, at one point I was teaching about the history of medicine and the history of nursing. And of course, you know, it's all these European people that are in the books that they talk about. They don't talk about Africans. You know, I did when I was doing my PowerPoint, because I had to use PowerPoint, you know, 171 students sitting in rows. So I did do some additional research. But the students themselves question, you know, why are all these people white? You know, I mean, I you know, talked about Imhotep and some other folks that were African, but, you know, I had to follow to a certain extent what I was given and the materials that I was given. So, you know, this is a problem in terms of our education system, and especially in Africa where, you know, they at the universities, there was some conversation around, you know, changing the curriculum. And, you know, even in health, you know, people think that health is just so, you know, it's not really political, but of course it is political. And, you know, you need to have your own culture and your own history embedded in what you're teaching for the students. So, but yeah, I mean, I had a lot of experiences. This book, I've written it like a novel. I was inspired by authors like Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, some of my favorites. Edwidge Danticat is one of my favorites. Of course, who are some of the other authors? California Cooper and some other authors that write literature. So I was inspired. So I wanted to write this as a novel in a sense, but it's all true. You know, there were challenges, certainly. I discovered that, you know, in the beginning, I was visiting Africa. That first trip, you know, I was visiting. But then, you know, Tanzania was the first country that I actually lived in. So I discovered that living in Africa was way different from visiting Africa. And, you know, there were certainly some challenges, but I wouldn't do it over in any other way. And as I said earlier at the beginning, I cannot wait to get back to Mama Africa, especially after this last trip to Burkina Faso. I'm just trying to arrange my life so that I can get back. But, you know, if you have not traveled to Africa, if you read Yumbani, you will travel to Africa. many people that have read the book, that have written reviews or written comments, say that they felt like they were there right along with me. And even if you have traveled to Africa, some of the things, even from as early as the 70s, I think that you will be captivated by, what was happening in Africa during those times and in all the different countries. So 12 countries: Ghana, the Gambia, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Mali. Malawi was very brief. There's a chapter on Libya. So I was in Libya in 1987 at Gaddafi's house. South Africa, Ethiopia, I've missed a few, I think. But those are some of the countries that I talk about in this book. So please, read the book. I think people have said it's a page turner. So read the book, and I think you will really enjoy it. And hopefully it will inspire you to travel to some of these places. Brother Sekou.
Yes. You finished? Yes. So did you show the book? This is the book. Is a classic. I would say in the future it will be a classic in terms of as a recommended book. A serious memoir of experience from early 1970s to recently. And System Rakina is bringing a wealth of experience as a Pan-Africanist and as a health practitioner, teacher. So we anyone have any questions that you will want to ask or add on it from the panel?
I just comment that I can relate to that device of using your own history as the basis for a novel, so that I think it's a rich way of archiving what you do, and exploring literature in that kind of way, I think is also very powerful, because you get to use your imagination and your creative writing skills in a way, writing a novel, that writing facts, quack facts, is not the same thing. So I think I'm looking forward to reading it. And I'm also looking forward to reading Asantewa's collection, obviously. But just to comment, from a literature point of view, that's a good device to be autobiographical, but at least at the same time being paying attention to history and your creativity. So kudos.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yes,
Mama Asantewaa, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say give thanks to Subrakina for this brilliant work. So I first saw it when we were out at a book fair, and yes, I absolutely need to get my copy. But one of the things I think that you said that was very interesting is that you sold jewelry to get to Africa the first time. You had to be creative, and I just want brothers and sisters to know that recently recently, as within the last 30 days, I saw that the net wealth of Black people in Chicago is zero. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck, especially Black people. So you may have to be creative. This money is not going to fall from the sky. But if you want to go to Africa, there are ways to get there. Now, my husband and I do tours, and sometimes when you tell people the amount, oh no, But if you're creative, you can. Do you braid hair? Do you cook food? You can do something to get there, even if all the money is not in your lap all at once. You know what I'm saying? So I just appreciate you being bold enough. I went to Africa first in 1995, and by then it was a well-trodden road, but I didn't know that people were going in the 70s. So this is a powerful story. Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing.
And thank you, because I did recognize the Nyumbani because I lived and taught in Africa, in Kenya. Learned some Kiswahili too. Yeah, so Nyumbani was a favorite word. Yeah, and I think it's very important that we learn even one or two or three African languages, because to go there, you cannot just be arrogant to say your colonial English is going to get you by. Because I remember a brother in Ghana said, "You Jamaican people come thinking that you know so much about Africa, and do you even know Fante? And you can you say Madase?" So I think shame on us if we don't make that effort to open that door, because it does open a door when you can understand the language.
And very important that being an African, there are no Africans that only know one language on the continent. That is part of the African identity, is 2-3 languages. So you rarely would meet an African that doesn't know more than one language, if ever.
If ever.
Yeah.
And Kiswahili is a Bantu language. So if you know Kiswahili, more than likely you are able to understand when other people who talk, who deal with Bantu, you'll comprehend some of the words that they use. And also in Kiswahili, you find some extensions of some Arabic words that, because that area there on the Indian Ocean, you have a lot of people, the Arabs was using there to trade and also to conquer Africans. And I want to make a point also in terms of the United Nations and the what was brought to the United Nations by the Ghanaian delegation. I also want to say that we must not forget, and we must implement and make a call for that some of our African tribal leaders in some of these areas. Means we don't know what we know as Nigeria, what we know as Ghana, what the native people there called those areas in that time. Because what might be called Burkina Faso now, all that area there at one time might have consisted of Mali and so on, the Sangha Empire. But nonetheless, I want to say that we cannot not bring in the Africans to being complicit in selling our great grandmothers and great grandfathers and brought who came here as were kidnapped and brought here, because the some of these castles didn't just come up from the ground. Europeans were renting these castles and paying rent and lease to somebody. They couldn't just turn up and just come and just kidnap people. So from my perspective, I say yes, Europeans have to pay. What I say that our African brothers, our cousins, because we've been here for a few hundred years and we have developed some of our own customs and habits, in addition to some of the African retention value that we brought here. But those on the continent, those who are there, they want us to come and spend money and bring back money, but they also need to give us free passports. Because when our ancestors came, they were kidnapped and we didn't have passports. So now we had to get passports, and they should give us these passports free. And they should give us a piece of land free, because that they owe us that. You can't want money from government and you not take a part that you are also complicit in the removing of Africans. Yes, we know when Africans were removed, it meant that a lot of labor was removed, free labor, but you have to take a responsibility too, as our African cousins in Africa, for bringing our ancestors here, kidnapping them, because the Europeans didn't just come with a net and just kidnap people. They were Africans in Africa who were complicit in the trade of my mothers and fathers and grandmothers and grandfathers and so on. Give thanks.
Give thanks, give thanks. We have run out of time for this month's episode. It's so juicy and so nice. I really love this power pack panel. As I said, we could easily charge $1,000 and it would still be a discount to come into an arena to see speakers of this caliber. But you're getting it for free here on the Lion Voice Network. And all we're asking is that you purchase their books. That's the price of admission today. Purchase the books. Even if you purchase one today, you purchase one next week. And I just want to speak to the Lion Pride. By now, everyone should be budgeting. If you watch this channel, you need a budget because we're asking the item to spend some money into the community. So you should have your community budget every month. If it's $50 a month, if it's $20 a month, whatever it is, and you have your community budget. So when you see these guests with such great products, you can take from that budget and you can purchase and feed forward into the community ecosystem. This is the liberation machine that we're building here. Liberating people by providing capital in the hands of the workers. The people who are doing the work are the best people to execute the work. We don't want to look for a sky god to come and save us. We're not looking for government to come and save us. So that leaves us with ourselves. And if we're not investing in ourselves, we are really naive and we're really joking around. And we deserve to be enslaved because any people that's not going to fund their liberation is going to deserve to be enslaved. And it sounds harsh, but that's the reality. There's no free ride on creation. And right now, most of us are paying to be enslaved in Babylon. So why can't we pay for our liberation? So I'm saying step by step, you know what I mean? Buy Dr. Imani book, buy Dr. Asantewaa book, buy Sister Rakina's book. These are books that are going to enrich your life. These are books that are going to, take you on that journey of personal growth that's so important in this Armageddon time. And remember, the policy here is that we don't lend out books. So once you get these books, you guard them. How do I feel about that? Do you all lend books? These are 4 avid readers.
I have paid the price for that in books.
I paid the price.
I paid the price as well. Even my
paid the price
stuff
for that.
from Libya. I got some books in Libya and I lent one of them to somebody and never got it back. I'll never get that book again.
Yeah, and sometimes we forget who we give the books
Truly.
to.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
who we lend the books to. So I at this stage prefer to buy a book for somebody
Yes.
than for them to use my
That's
book.
the only way.
You
That's
know?
the only way. You buy them
Yeah.
the book. You can't lend
Yeah.
them book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just wanted to make a
so
correction.
in the spirit of Marcus
Yes.
Mosiah Garvey, great Pan-Africanist, of the 18th century, Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is a 20th century man who some people say he was ahead of his time, but I say he was right on time. But he reminds us that that liberate the minds of men, and you will ultimately liberate the bodies of men.
Highly.
Yes. So I want us to take that as a note and go home with that, the viewers, so they can know that it's time to build up your true berry.
Critical.
I just wanted to say that I made an error earlier in quoting the price because I was quoting the Jamaican price, but online the book is $28 and you also have a Kindle version.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that's
Excellent.
a bargain. That's a bargain.
Yes, yes.
Please.
Yeah, I got a copy of that book years ago when Dr. Imani first published it.
Yeah.
And now we are in the process of we would like to reissue it under the Frontline brand. So I'm going to be talking to Sister Imani in terms of how we could bring it under the Frontline brand,
Nice.
and bring it to the diaspora,
Centralized.
centralize, and use some of the networks that we have, and so on, and how we could coordinate that. But it's important, I think, that we continue to liberate the minds of men and women.
I want to see frontline books on the continent like Barnes and Nobles in Babylon. You know what I mean? Frontline book could be in every major capital city, as a book distributor, because we all know who have been to Africa, there's not a lot of Pan-African books. You don't have access to a lot of Pan-African literature. I was listening to a Nigerian investigative journalist. His name is slipping eye right now, David something.
Yes, David. I know who you speak of.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. And he was saying that in Nigeria, in the 80s, up to this day, most of the media is funded by the West, by NGOs, funded by Western interests. And so the concept of being Pan-African in Nigeria is almost non-existent because they were educated deliberately on Western values. So the importance of media, I can't underscore enough what we're doing here as Rastafari, as Pan-Africans, establishing our own voice, establishing our own media apparatus is a critical pillar of a sovereign people, of an independent-minded people. You have to have your own independent media. And that is what we're doing here. We're building Rastafari independent, non-aligned media. And I want to thank all of our panelists for being a part of our uprising. This for sure is a classic episode. And make sure you all share, you like, comment in the comment section so that the algorithm will spread it out more. Unfortunately, all good things must come to a pause. I won't say ending, but we're gonna have to pause. We are going live again at 6 p.m. The homeschool. We're gonna be reasoning with Empress Jalala from out of Trinidad Bobo Shanti house on homeschooling and building a Rastafari. We're doubling up today, so we do have a hard stop. However, again, Reading Ras on the Frontline will return next month, April, with a power panel. Ras Sekou has been pulling out all the stops for us for these panels, and I want to thank the Ras Sekou. It's really as a young Ras, youngish, because we're getting up there now. I have a couple of gray hairs. If my children hear me call myself young, I'm in problems, But it's an honor, just to be here in the midst of the greatness. And thank you for bringing together this ensemble of powerhouse, female, divine, feminine energies.
Give thanks. Until next time.
Yes. Anyone have any final words before we sign off?
Yes, I just want to say literacy is something that we need to address on the continent and probably in other places too. But low literacy, I found, is a problem. So, it's a problem and it's an advantage, because if we're doing literacy training, we can teach what we as revolutionaries, what we think is most appropriate to teach.
Yes.
So it's problem, and it's also an advantage for us. The other thing I want to say is in Burkina Faso, there's the Thomas Sankara Center, and they need books in French. As you know, Burkina Faso was colonized by the French. So they have some wonderful training going on. They're reading revolutionary books, they're studying together, but they need more books in the French language. So I'm putting that call out if anybody has any resources.
Well, I will look in terms of in the future, short future, to translate
absolutely
some of our books
right
into French, since that our this is language is still that colonial language is still being used in a few African countries, and we will want them to So I will start to look in terms of the collection that we have, and also start to talk to some of the other publishers, black publishers that I know, in terms of how we could get some of those books translated. But we'll start with Frontline because charity begins at home.
That is right. Before we leave, speaking of Frontline, let us watch this video here. Just in case, yes, just in case Frontline was playing with people. Just in case you thought Frontline was playing with people.
And we have one for the eternal year too.
Okay,
so next time. Yes.
That one.
Yeah, man.
So we're stepping up, family. We're not staying the same way you see us. We're always looking to improve, always looking to bring another element. Big up yourself, Frontline Books. Big up everyone who watched this live, to everyone who watched this on the replay again. Please comment, like, share, so that we can spread out this word. We just touched 66,000 subscribers in the Lion Pride. We're on our way to 100,000. We have to get 70, 80, 90 first, but we're on our way. Our goal is 100,000 for this year. So let's continue to push, continue to watch the videos, continue to support the guests. We're creating a dynamic ecosystem, Ras Tafari Pan-African ecosystem. Let us circulate the dollar, put aside your budget so that you can pour into your community. Things that are important, things that you value, are things that you need to invest in. And we have created an online repository, over 1,500 pieces of content on this YouTube channel of nothing but history, positivity, and Rastafari vibration. So make sure you support Rastafari independent, non-aligned media. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
This is Warrior.
Give thanks.
The lions and the lioness to tell their own story. This is the Lion's Voice. Give thanks and praise for the wonderful blessing that's been poured on me. Give thanks and praise. Jah use a yet an instrument to set the people free. Jah give her the powers to chant. Jah give her the powers to chant. Rastafari, the Lion's Voice.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jaja soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lion's Voice. Now put it, I jolly for say that.
Greetings, this is Ras Shiloh. The time has come for the lions to tell their own story. See? This is the Lion's Voice. Keep it locked, right, sir? Ras Shiloh said that. Are you satisfied? Wipe those tears from your eyes. I'm all alone, still you thought I was telling a lie. This is the Lion's Voice. Keep it locked, right, sir?
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the lion's voice.
African pride, root of all nations, boy. I tried with the lion, the Ras Tafari. Lion of it, tried with lioness like I too. Empress on the front line, we need you. Well, this is Medicine, the steady one, and you are now tuned in to the Lion's Voice Network. What the lion fought for do? Scorch them, roast and parch them.
I will never stop, hail the Most High, and I will never stop, call Ras Tafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Ras Tafari.
Empress Manel, and a young scientist. Your role universally unfold, be told. Blessed love, this is Itege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lion's voices to be heard. This is the lion's voice, Ras Tafari.
Yo, blazing fire, yeah man, this is Ras Sekou out of Belize, and the time has come for the lions to tell our own story, right? Yeah man, we blaze fire, burning the wicked and the dirty vampire. Yeah man, Ras Sekou said that, blazing fire, lion boy.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes, wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Ras Tafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Ras Tafari.
Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to the lion voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here. Hear me now. Oh, yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
The lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.